Hey, a pleasant, good, happy new year, everybody. We're joined in the first episode of 2022. I hope you all had a good holiday season, a safe holiday season, as we're here to talk the playoff preview of some football teams for you. We also had a surprise win of two NFC football playoff teams this week for me that we'll get to later on in the show. Cowboys. Um, that's just the team that it's involving, at least. We also are going to give you some NHL news around the league as well, as there's been a lot more goal. Usually you see defense being the proponent of when teams come back from long breaks. Nobody told many of these teams that because
No, they didn't.
scoring since
I mean, gosh, the first game back was 7-8.
8-7. Yeah, that's the game I recapped last week for my. Usually I try to do one or two recaps on my channel per week. But Steel, first and foremost, before we jump into the week of the NHL, we had the first week back, and also get into football. How are you doing this fine New Year? Only 3 days.
Man.
3 days ago.
I know it's only 3 days in. First of all, I hope you had a great and wonderful happy New Year, and I hope all you folks out there had a great and happy wonderful New Year as well too. We had a great New Year, so I mean, what could be better than hockey finally being back? Got to watch a really good Winter Classic. That was a pretty good game there up until the third period,
Which
where
the goal scoring was a little bit tighter. But
yeah, I was just gonna say it was really good up until like the start of the third period. In the third period, man, St. Louis just kind of broke it open, and then that was pretty much the end of that.
yeah. I would also have to say that was probably Thomas Rhett's coldest performance he ever did.
Yeah.
I would have to guess. I mean, the dude's a good country artist, but he's singing about T-shirts, and you're in -30 degree.
I mean,
weather. Have beach songs go, and
Well,
it was a funny. It was a funny vibe. Yeah, the Blues came in beach theme.
Yeah, was it St. Louis?
St. Louis, yeah, they came in dressed as like Hawaiian, like
yeah, they had sandals on and flip flops.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah,
right.
So hey, that was basically them just making fun of like. I think the league not realizing you probably could have done this game in the afternoon. Like, it's in Minnesota. This is not one of the ones that had to be at night.
Like, yeah, like you could have done this during the day. It'd have been a little warmer, maybe. But
because that's not sun that would have affected the ice like Tahoe, because Tahoe was temperatures combined with sun.
Exactly.
They didn't had any temperature. You just had some.
It didn't matter. Yeah, it didn't matter. You could have had
-7. So
that's what I mean.
They just would have had a little bit of a sun. Warmth at that point.
Hey, look, it's bright. Wow, it's bright. It's still bloody cold, but hey, it's bright.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Yeah, but no, that's, we talked about this on the last show. And, looking back, a little bit of hindsight here, I'm going to pick on the NHL a little bit here, and I'm going to say this. I really think that they should have only just had the Winter Classic on. That's it. Okay.
Alan Walsh, actually, the agent I brought up before for the podcast I was talking about, the Agent Provocateur podcast, also recommend that to people if they haven't checked it out. But he tweeted that out about the day of the Winter Classic, because he's the one that tweeted the sword and Fleury's back at one time too. That's out.
Okay.
He's a very outspoken agent, as many know. But
slightly.
He has no problem putting his opinions out, but I think that was right. Like and the bigger thing is he said the second part, which is the biggest issue. Why are you putting one game at the same time? At least if you're going to do it on the same day, why is there another game in the same time slot?
See,
that's an even bigger issue.
Duh.
That should have been able to be resolved just by a meeting of one person looking at their thing, whether it's on their phone screen like this, or on a sheet of paper like this, that somebody should have been able to go, oh, wait a minute. Why do we have a game scheduled at the same time as the winter? Like, even if you were doing them on the same day, you should have been like, we have 6 games at 1. Just put this game at 1 o'clock also. Like, people are just going to watch whatever fans they're the fan of at that point anyway, because there's 6 games at 1 o'clock.
That's what I mean.
So, like, yeah. So, I mean, you could have just put it in the different time slot hour there. But I agree. I think they should go back to making it the Mecca, where it's just the one game, like you were saying. But if they don't do that, the worst part to it is you made 2 mistakes compounded into one. you put games on the same day and then put a game at the same time as Mecca event. So if you basically doubled up on your mistakes at that point. That's like a defenseman that turns over the puck and then just watches the guy skate into the offensive zone to score and doesn't care about getting back on defense at that point because he turned over the puck. Like,
so
that's
you shouldn't be talking about the Flyers like that now, Joe.
Well, I think that would be one specific individual, but
like I said, you shouldn't be talking about the Flyers.
that would be specifically at someone that is in the lineup for all the right reasons. He should be kept in to maintain his streak, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and he's not even the one I'm talking about. Well, I no, either one. I mean, it either starts with a Y or a B. Either one, I don't care. So, all right. But we had some really good hockey games back. It's great to see that the NHL was allowing games to be played again. It looks like there's going to be the Canadians took a little shutdown. I also saw today that Anaheim also shut down practice today voluntarily for an overabundance of caution.
And then people started immediately tweeting out, as of now, game is still on. So.
Okay, and I also did see too. Right.
Right.
I also did see too that some Flyers players were admitted to the list and
Cates
and
it was Jackson
Seeger
and Seeger. No, Sealer.
Sealer.
Nick Sealer. Yeah. Seeger's the baseball players. Yeah, Sealer. There we go.
Sorry.
Seeger's the famous baseball family.
Yeah.
And
Seeger, also the Bob Seeger is a great musician of the Silver Bullet kind. Anyway.
Well, yeah, or a famous musician family or baseball family. Yeah.
Either way. Yeah, either way. All right. But no, I mean, so they've made some adjustments that we talked about on the last show where they've there's a taxi squad. They've changed the protocols to where now players can go on the taxi squad. And we talked about this on the last show too.
Also the 5 days for the asymptomatic. Yeah.
Right. So they changed it now from, what was it? 10 days?
10. Yeah,
right.
10.
So it was 10 days now down to 5 if you're asymptomatic. You still have to have 2 clear tests within a span of. Oh, okay.
I thought I saw one when it.
All right, then they did change that then.
5 days. Okay. But I could be wrong. I swore when I read it, though, it just said 1 negative.
I thought you needed 2 clear tests.
I do remember it being 2, but I swore.
Right, so they might have changed it.
When it said 1, but I could be wrong.
Right. It was 2, but they could very well have changed it. So that's kind of what we're going on as far as what we know right now. So we're just trying to keep you as up to date as we can. As far as we know, there's hockey games being played, so that's all we care about.
Well, it's also tough for the leagues from the same perspective when you have the people that are supposed to be guiding the league saying one thing one day, not to get down that rabbit hole too much, but then the next day it's the exact opposite of what they said 48 hours before. So it's a little bit hard to be the commissioner of the. I will give them a pass on that because it's a little bit hard to be the health experts of these leagues when the health experts of the world don't even know what they're talking about.
So do you hear what this guy's talking about? This is why we call him Pro Joe, because he's the professor. But spot on, my man. Look, I'm not asking Bateman to be a health official.
Basically, when it comes.
I'm not asking him to be a health official because that's not what he is. Okay, he is the commissioner of the NHL. All right, so you give me some straight guidelines all the way through, and then follow through with them. Okay, don't give me this half-butted stuff, which is what's been going on. They completely dropped the ball.
No, I agree. Yeah, they should have had the biggest thing you guys brought up on Off the Wall, and I think it was back in November you might have first brought it up, but it was the number of players. There should have been a concrete number of players.
Exactly.
When you made the line of we're canceling, well, not canceling, but postponing
games or whatever.
A later date. I had canceling in mind because of the IIHF. Postponing games for that period of time until you could make the money. So That's kind of just the way I thought of it. But.
No, and see, that's what we talked about even back then. Like we saw this coming. I mean, come on, how could you not see this coming? Okay, when they already started it with the Senators and the Islanders being two different players, or the number of players equaling two players extra on the Ottawa team compared to the Islanders team. Now, the Ottawa team didn't have any staff, but the Islanders had one staff and 6 players or 7 players or something like that, so a total 8. Something like that, right? Okay. And then they did it again for the Calgary Flames. Calgary only had 6.
Yeah.
So
well,
Canada they did it once with
Canada.
Ottawa,
I'm trying to wonder because they did it with Canadian teams. I'm wondering if any of that, and we're not going to ever know this information,
right?
Was pushed from the government, was pushed from the provinces because of how strict Canada's been compared to.
Agreed. No. It very well could have. Okay, but
because we saw how the provinces have basically mandated themselves without mandating, saying like we do not want you to have fans, and then the teams accepted it basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, and they did the same thing with the IIHF too. They basically mandated and said you're only going to have 50% capacity, and then they said, well, all right, but I don't know, man. That was another very serious disappointment too. That we should be right now talking about finals, semifinals for the IIHF because the finals games started on the 5th, correct?
Yeah, the 5th. It would have been 2 days.
2 days from now.
Would have been on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I mean, we'd be talking about semifinals right now and medal matchups and stuff like that.
You would be talking about the top teams and
exactly.
And probably Canada, probably potentially still Sweden. Finland there. You got the U.S.
Maybe Russia.
Maybe Russia. Yeah. Russia's the wild card because the last time Russia won was when they took guys that were already over in North America, where they haven't done that for a while. And then this year they didn't take any prospects who were over in North America. And one was the OHL's leading goal scorer. I can't remember his name. But they only took guys that still were drafted but were still playing over in Russia. So it's like they wanted that weird tight-knit, like inexplicable tight-knitness, basically, which the last time they won was, I think it might have been 2011, but it might have been before that. But the last time they won, I just remember was when it was the same concept. They didn't take any prospects that were already over here.
Yeah.
So they kind of went back to the same concept that it seemed like.
Right. So, and then plus everything that went down with the whole IIHF being canceled as well too. So that was a big disappointment as well too with that. And Joe, so we talked about the taxi squads. We talked about all these things that the NHL's doing, right? So now, what's the deal with the AHL? What's going on with the junior teams or the minor league teams? Are they because now they're going to be majorly affected by these taxi squads, right? You know what I mean? And now
the minors will be the junior, the
minors. I'm sorry, the minors.
Yeah, the juniors. There's a lot of rules there. You wouldn't be able to just
but I mean the minors, like the AHL teams. Now are going to be missing a lot of guys. Now they did change the taxi squad where guys can rotate now, so you're not on the taxi squad, right? Right. So you're not on the taxi squad, and then you stay on the taxi squad for the whole season.
The difference is that can be played with still because you're not on the taxi squad if you're scratched.
Right.
So if I bring up Jerry Mayhew to say scratch Jerry Mayhew and then send down Patrick Brown because he wasn't going to play in this game anyway because I wanted, say, Cateson for more skating speed or something. Like one of those reasonings or whatever your reasoning is, you could play with it that way. So it doesn't have the 20 continuous days. So it's going to be interesting to see what teams decide to do in that perspective.
Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to get to, was the fact that teams now have a lot more flexibility with the taxi squad players, and it also benefits the taxi squad players too, to where they're not stuck on a taxi squad where they don't get to see any playing time. You know, they get rotated in and out to where they get to go back to the AHL team where they get to still play.
Yeah, and also right now this taxi squad is only implemented to the All-Star break, which is literally a month, like 2 days
Right.
extra than a month from right now. So
Right.
it's not
Okay.
like for the time being, this is the longevity plan. This is just the right
True.
now month monthly to the break
Yeah.
plan, basically, because it seems like the NHL is still planning on. It's not like they announced. The only league that announced they're not having the All Star game is the AHL. The
Okay.
NHL only talked about the Olympics, where I have a feeling they're still trying to have the All Star Classic, where
Yeah.
the especially to make up for not doing the other. And then you have the ECHL who announced the coaches for the All Star Classic. So they're obviously planning on pushing ahead because that was just announced this week. Eric Wellwood, actually, former
Yeah, I
Flyers.
saw that. I saw
Uh,
that.
but so it's I think it's going to be to that point. I have a feeling it's going to last past that point, but you have to reassess in a month because
Okay.
it all depends what you read and what you go by. Because some things say within a month we might be where countries overseas are at now, where you're at the down wave. So then you might be able to say we don't need the taxi squads for the time being, or
Yeah.
we could still be where London is, where they're like starting the down wave but still in the uptick wave at the same time, where it's like this weird cluster mess. So it all kind of depends where you're at that
Yeah,
time.
I'm
I
with you. Yeah.
with the virus. Where I think the safest move with the way you have the rules behind the taxi squads for this year to be better to the players would be just to have them for
That's
the
what I
rest
mean.
of the
Yeah,
I
yeah, for
think
the
the
rest of the
safest
season?
move would be just to have them for the rest of the
Yes.
season.
Yes.
But will they do that because it does still it's better for the players, but it's still not great.
Agreed.
That would be something that remains to be seen with the Players Association and the league getting
You know,
together before the All Star break to make those
do
discussions.
you know what, Joe? That question that I asked you, I think will have more relevance if that takes place. If they extend the taxi squads to past the All-Star break, which I think they should. I really think they should just
Yeah, I
have
also
them.
really answered your direct question. Yeah, I kind of just answered other
No,
things,
but
and to the direct question, the ECHL has had multiple guys move up to the AHL. Therefore, you're seeing ECHL teams sign guys from the Canadian equivalent of the NCAA
yep.
or the actual NCAA. You're seeing a lot of that, and you're seeing like the Garrett Melcasts come up from the ECHL that the Phantoms got. The PTO goaltender had a fantastic first game. You're seeing those guys get the opportunities. So on a glass half full side, it's affecting them by yes, teams are getting weaker because guys are moving up to the next level. And guys are moving up to the NHL, making the AHL weaker, but then the AHL is bringing up people from the ECHL, making their ECHL team a little bit weaker. You're also potentially getting stronger with someone else that was an unknown
Yes, sir.
now being able to come in
Yep.
and do really well. And now you have that going forward, whoever that said person is, also with the rest of the people once everything
Exactly.
is back.
Plus, that said person gets an opportunity now at the next level.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? To showcase what they have. And, I mean, that's exactly what happened last year with how we got to see the likes of Cam York, Tyson Forster, Zade Wilson, how we got to see those guys because they got a chance to come up and play in the AHL because of the whole COVID taxi squad thing, whatever. So those guys got to play. And a lot of teams in the NHL got to see those young guys play. And that's why I feel that a lot of the 2020 draft picks are now playing, a lot of them, like at least the first 3 rounds. A lot of those players are now starting to get ice time on their teams. Do you know what I mean? Where they're
Because they
not.
were forced to get a cup of coffee at a higher level quicker.
Exactly. Great point, man. Great point. So now we got games back. We got a month until the All-Star break, right? We both said that they're
Pretty much.
gonna, yeah, we both said that they're gonna at least do the All-Star break, right? And they're
It
gonna
seems like they're
use,
going to have the game to this because they never said they're not having the game. So my understanding is they're still having the game.
right. But from what
So,
I understood about the whole thing with the fact
which
that
is
the
different,
players weren't,
I think,
yeah,
the
but
game.
the whole thing that I'm trying to get to is the players were supposed to have this 3-week break with the Olympics.
Yeah, because it was a combined break. You had the All-Star game first, I think, and then the Olympics
Yes,
were
sir.
afterwards.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's kind of what I'm getting to here now. So now that they're not going to have the Olympics, but now they've got, I believe it's 115 games, I think, or something crazy, stupid.
Something like that, yeah.
Right. But they've got 115 games that they need to make up. Okay.
They're going to put some in that time. Bill Daly, he was on, I can't remember if I was watching NHL Network or Sportsnet, but one of the things I was watching, Bill Daly came on and he brought up how they're trying to figure it out with like all the powers that be basically around the league, talking to them because you have to with hockey, with the physicality of the sport. He said, you can't just push these guys out there 4 nights in a row to say, oh, we're making up 4 of your 12 games that have to be made up 4 nights in a row when you were supposed to be home with your family. But
that's not going to go over well.
That's not going to work too well. So where you can mix in different things. So I think they're trying to figure out if it's a feasible option to actually fill in a lot of games there, or if it's more they're just going to be able to fill in some because they technically agreement-wise in the bargaining agreement agreed that this was going to be body rest time. The All-Star break, at least for you guys, is going to be body rest time. With the Olympic break, they could say, well, for guys that didn't make the Olympic team, this would be body rest time, but you all would have been playing anyway. So why don't we try to make up some games in this stretch? And they're going to do that. I guarantee they're going to make up games. I think the thing is to the degree of how much are they able to fit into that, because it's only really a 2-week span. Like a little bit for that. So it's not
like 10 days.
Yeah, it's not like it's that big of a time frame. I think people are thinking of it as like a massive time frame when it's really only 10 days or like 12 days or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Be able to fit games into. So it'll make up some of them. It's not going to solve your entire issue. I think the way the NHL is leaning towards going, the AHL just extended its regular season calendar to the end of April, where they usually end before that. April 30th now is the end for the AHL, which extends it a few days. The NHL already ends at the end of April, pretty much.
Right, it's 15 days, Joe. It's 15 days. 15 days.
2 weeks. But that's still not that much time.
Nope.
So you're going to have to, you still need off days built in for these guys. So you're going to have to do that. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because you don't want to go back to last year where sometimes you have guys playing, it seems, too much in a row, where that's happened this year as well, like 4 out of 6s, 5 out of 7s, because that's not good for the sport either, because then you are injured. But you have to balance all of that out.
Do you remember, I think it was 3 years ago, like before COVID hit, where they had rotating mandatory week offs or mandatory bye weeks for the teams, right? That was like 3 years, like right before COVID hit, they had started rotating bye weeks for the teams, right? So I think that's what they might have to get back to for this season.
I actually don't remember that. Oh yeah, I didn't remember that. No.
Oh, okay.
I probably just watched the games that were on and then just didn't even bother.
Yeah, they would give a team like 5 days, right? And it happened within
like they played on Saturday, they would come back Thursday type
or Friday.
Friday.
Yeah. Right. So, but it was mandatory. Every team had to do it. Right.
I would agree with that. Then I think for next season, if the world's back to more normalcy, especially after these last 2 seasons being so compact, that's something that would be only fair to the players to do at that point.
But see, what I think they might have to do, though, is get to that so that they can try to make up all these games and still give guys that time off that they were promised. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying that I'm using that as a suggestion.
Yeah, I think it will be tough to do that this year just because of the amount of, if we had like say 50 games to make up compared to getting over 115 like that, like you're at a, like, unless if you're going to shorten the season and cut a block and say, you know what, forget 82 games, we're going to have everyone play 65.
No, I wasn't going to cut any games.
And then you would, or we're going to play 72 like the minor leagues do instead of 82, and then
right.
We'll just cut out 10. Now, if this keeps going that way, I think the league might have to do that at some point, because eventually you're not going to have the time on the calendar if you want to have the season start at the regular time next year.
Exactly. Or have things scheduled the way you have them scheduled for this year.
Yeah, because now you're going to have to do like what I was saying earlier with the AHL extend its calendar. The NHL, I think, is going towards the direction of having to extend its calendar. And I don't think they want to have the regular season go that much into May.
That's true. So but if they extend it for a week.
A week, though, I don't think that'll make, like, even within the 2 weeks, say you make up a total of 50 games, you still have, if 50, that's
60, 70 games,
you still have over 60 to, so it's like, I think at this point, you're looking at either summer hockey again, or you're compromising at a certain point. Like,
or you extend this. Yeah.
But yeah, like you're either going to have summer hockey, or you might have to say, look, it's probably more feasible for teams to get to 72 games, and we'll somehow make sure everyone hits 72, so the playoffs are fair, whether we piss off Montreal or not. And then we'll make sure that the team hit 72 games so that the playoffs are fair.
I mean,
so like that's and I'm not talking about the team Montreal. I'm talking about the government. So like the that's why I think they have to get those going. But from listening to what Daly says, listening to different podcasts, Gary's kind of stayed out of the spotlight, rightfully so, since third and things. But both of them kind of hint towards like they're talking to the powers that be about just these things we've just been talking about for the last 15 minutes. What's the best direction to go? What's the best route going forward for us?
Exactly. Well, man, I'll tell you what. I think that we got a lot of information here with the NHL. We had a couple of games come back and play, and they're just starting to get back into playing regular games again. You know what I mean? Like the Winter Classic was like that. Everybody came back for that Winter Classic. That was the first game back, right? For that whole stretch of games, that set of games was the first games back for everybody, you know. And now that they're starting to get into more regular games and starting to get the schedule back, and, you know, there's been some other teams that have had some pauses and some other things as well, too. And I think we're going to see that throughout the year, no matter what. Now, I mean, I just think that's just how it's just going to be, where teams are going to have to either they're going to start canceling or postponing games, or they're just going to stop operations, and they're just going to have to keep on doing what they're doing.
We'll have to see going. I think the biggest reason they put the taxi squad in, when I read about implementing the taxi squad, was to have bodies. So you have, unless if you go over this quota on the same day of tests, you should be able to play your game because you have guys sitting there ready.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, unless if you hit this number, now you should be good.
Should be.
So like where before it was basically, well, we don't have extra people. This team now has 7 forwards. So like that, it was a little bit different than you have defensemen playing like left wing. So
yeah, right. Yeah.
That makes
can't be having that.
That makes a little bit. That makes a little bit of a difference.
You think?
Yeah.
Now I'll tell you what. Now I want to jump into this because we found out some very interesting news today, of all days, when no football was being played. So congratulations to the Eagles for making the playoffs. You guys clinched a spot, right, with the 49ers game, right, and the Packers game.
Yeah, thanks to a million different things I never try to follow. I just wait till they tell us we clinched the playoffs. And
I mean, you know, like, are we in?
All
right.
The playoffs, yeah.
So the Eagles are in, right? So,
yeah. The Eagles are in, and also we're both us and the 49ers are 9-7. So if the 49ers lost last week, or next week, excuse me, and the Eagles win, they would flip spots. But at the same time, it gets to the conversation of, would you rather play Tampa if they're still in the same spots, or LA? Where right now the Eagles are playing Los Angeles. If they flip, they would be playing Tampa. So it's like where Angeles has been struggling more recently than other Tampa. Than if your name's Odell Beckham. Tampa hasn't been as much. Where Beckham, since he's gone
to the Rams,
the Browns, and gone to the Rams, has decided he is Odell Beckham and doesn't have any issues, and is going back to being the Giants level Odell Beckham.
They actually have a guy. They actually have a quarterback there to throw him the ball. I mean,
that just proves the adage: certain players don't work in certain situations. Because Odell Beckham was great. With the Giants until he had a falling out, obviously, but that was a lot on the organization. And then he was great he's great now with the Rams, and then the Browns. They never had.
He was supposed to be there with his boy Landry, and and those two fought for number one, and then neither one of them got it, and then you know what I mean. So it was just like this big giant.
Well, they also were more of a running offense. Like, it didn't really make sense for two upper echelon receivers to be like two of the best in the game to be on the corners of a running offense.
Didn't make any sense.
But like that also.
And you don't have a quarterback that's back there gunslinging it.
Yeah, Baker's a game manager. Baker's not.
He's not a gunslinger.
Baker's not a gunslinger. No.
Yeah. And Odell Beckham and Landry are receivers for gunslingers.
Yeah, that's why Eli, at the end of his career, used Odell, right? Because at that point, he didn't have the same throwing skill. He just launched that thing up in the air.
And Odell would just run under it.
Go catch it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, that it's nice to have those types of guys. But no, the Eagles were able to clinch. The NFC picture also looked a lot different because of results this week. The Cowboys moved down to 4th. Now play the Cardinals, who are fit, that ended up beating them. That was the surprise win.
I actually was watching that game.
Was going to win. Yeah. And then because Arizona's been struggling coming into the closeout, Dallas has been better, and then Dallas played bad until they started making it up a bit, and then they just still couldn't win. Right. And then you obviously now have Tampa playing San Fran, and the Eagles will play LA. That's how it would shake out right now with Green Bay.
All right, so let me pose this question to you now, okay? So Eagles have 2 games left, right?
No, we just play Dallas. That's it.
That's the last game, Dallas?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, we're done after Dallas. Yeah.
All right, okay. So if you beat Dallas, right, you leapfrog Dallas, right?
No. We can't win the division. We can only physically be in the wild card still. The Eagles have no chance of winning the division because Dallas is 11-5. We would be 10-7. Okay. So they would be 11-6, and we'd be 10-7. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's no way to get past them. So, and technically, the Eagles, so if they lose, they either play LA or Tampa Bay.
It would depend
on what the 49ers do.
Weeks. Yeah, it would depend how and also it would depend on how the weeks of the Rams and Tampa do to see if those teams would flip second to third. Or if like
so either way you slice it, they're either going to play Tampa Bay or the Rams.
It would seem so, but I think let me look at because the Cowboys, like I said, are 11-5. The Rams are 12-4. So if they lose,
if the Rams lose and the Cowboys win, they can bump.
If the Rams and Bucks both lose, and the Cowboys win, they would then be all at 12-5. And I don't know who has the tiebreakers at that point.
Oh wow!
What's seeding? So.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
Wow.
at that point, they would be playing whatever one of those three teams. I don't know who has the tiebreakers. And
Of the
then,
three teams,
yeah, for who would have the tiebreaker to be second, who would have the
right.
tiebreaker to
Of
then be
those three teams, who
third.
do you think the Eagles have a best shot at of winning?
Um, of the three, I would probably have to, just because you have the most energy for it, it's an interdivision game, I'd probably have to say Dallas.
Okay.
Because you're playing an interdivision game that's going to bring you the most
Okay.
energy coming into it as well. I think, and it's a team you're very familiar with, so you're going to have
Right.
that aspect of it as well.
Right.
But if I had to pick between the Rams and Tampa, I would probably slightly lean LA.
Either way, I don't think Philadelphia is going to be able to take care of Tampa Bay and or the Rams. I think they have a shot against Dallas, depending on how if they beat Dallas next week, right? Does that mean that do they sweep Dallas for the year, or do they split?
Split. Yeah, we didn't beat Dallas.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we lost to Dallas.
All right. So that'll be the rubber match if that happens. And I've always found that those games tend to be the most exciting games.
Yeah, we actually got smoked by Dallas. That was 41-21.
41-20. Yeah, that's okay. So yeah, this would be if Dallas wins and Tampa, which I don't see them losing, and or if you know what I mean, like it depends on if some of these other teams. I don't know. Who does Tampa play last? Who does LA play last? If they play each other, then
no, Tampa plays. The Rams are playing. I'm trying to see for week. Here we go, week 18. The Rams are playing the 49ers. So that's actually. So, depending who wins
that
game.
bodes well for you then.
And then the Tampa is playing Carolina, so that should be a win for Tampa.
That should be yeah. So that bodes well. The Rams playing the 49ers. Rams winning that game helps you guys, helps the Eagles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they still need to win. If they win, they leapfrog over the 49ers, and then they would play Tampa Bay then.
Yeah. There will be. Okay. There's a bunch of different movements that can happen at that point. Like I said, usually I just follow up with a baseline of tell me who we're playing that week, and then
there you go.
Where different maneuvering things I don't try to keep up with.
Okay, so but still though, the NFC, Green Bay is looking like the big dog, then Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah, the Rams.
And then the Rams.
Tampa Bay also took a hit because say what you want about him off the field, but on the field, Antonio Brown's one of the best receivers, so he's no longer with the Bucs. So they did take a skill level hit.
True. Now they haven't had him for the last 3 weeks.
Chris Godwin also has a torn ACL.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's coming back. So all you have is Mike Evans that's a number one.
Right.
At this point as a receiver. Yeah. Then you have Gronk obviously at the tight end position.
And the Cowboys also got some bad news too, with one of their top receivers now being out with torn ACL as well too.
Oh yeah. What are you talking about, Gallup?
Dallas. The Cowboys.
Yeah.
They just lost somebody to a torn ACL. I think it was one of their
Gallup, right? Isn't Gallup out with a torn ACL?
Yeah, that's it. No, that's who I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. But they just found that out today, so I mean that's another blow to them. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a big blow to them. But also Dallas is Toronto, so you have to see Dallas win a playoff game first before you can do anything. They're literally the Maple Leafs, so it's like they see them win, and then we'll go from there.
Exactly. All right, so here we go. Now we gotta address this, okay? Just because I feel like I have to anyway. Tonight is a Monday Night Football game with the Steelers and the Browns. And this is potentially looking like this might be Ben's last game at Heinz Field. And I'm just kind of curious as to what your assessment is of Roethlisberger. He's 18 years, one team. What did you think of Ben? What do you think of his career as far as what he's done, what he's put together? And how do you look at Ben Roethlisberger? Where do you put Ben Roethlisberger in the pantheon of quarterbacks?
Just from eyesight, I would say he was, for a period of time when he could move, and actually had the kind of bust level mentality to him where he was going to let nothing stop him. He was one of the better quarterbacks in the game. That's how he won the Super Bowl for him, and had that pass of kind of having the no stop until you drop mentality to Holmes. Towards the end, do I think Ben could have came off a little bit better? Yeah, I think he probably could have came off a little bit better towards the end of his career. It seemed like he kind of had that Jay Cutler, I don't give a crap, that people used to always get on Cutler for coming off as. With post-career, he said that wasn't the case at all. I always just looked like I didn't care. Where it's probably the same for Ben, but like perception becomes reality. So I feel like at a certain point you have to care about what people are perceiving you to be. And I think the one thing Ben didn't do enough in his career was care about that. And that might be what hurts him when it comes to the voting for when you do eventually get to because usually Hall of Fame voters sometimes don't love guys that don't seem to care. Like, for example, if Jay Cutler had Hall of Fame stats, it might take him, he doesn't. But if he did, it might have taken him a couple years to get him, because people would be like, he seemed to just not give a crap about the game. He kind of just played it to play it. Where Ben, at the beginning of his career, I think really cared. And then when he started aging and losing it, I think he kind of just showed up for the thing he loved at that point, and was kind of, he fits into the same category of me as Eli does. I think he could have left a couple years sooner, and it would have done betterment than that hanging around. I think he would have said he had a better career if he left 2 years ago, where now you're going to say, well, the last 2 years were okay, but they were nothing compared to the first 6
I mean, it's a lot of players do that.
You have to you have to judge. We talked about it before the podcast. The biggest thing to the end of any athlete's career is judging when you're just a harm to yourself. And
exactly.
And some guys are not a good job at doing that. Other guys like Kyle Seager, we brought up the Seagers by accident earlier, in baseball decided to become a dad and retired before he had to. So he went out in his own terms.
Yeah, Jim Brown did the same thing.
Yeah, and some guys go out when their body literally says you can't move. Like, for example, and you can't play football anymore.
Exactly. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. I probably would have fallen into that category where I would have to be that person that couldn't walk anymore. You know what I mean?
I would have thought that. Yeah, that's what I would have thought growing up, because I was always that athlete playing. Like, I went back out. I kicked with my left foot when I had a high ankle sprain in the soccer players when I'm actually a righty, until I could feel with my right foot kicking and it wouldn't kill every 5 seconds.
You know?
But I feel like if I was in the pros, eventually I would have got to a point where I would have said, like, I can give back to these kids that are on my team. Now I might as well just start mentoring other people in some role capacity, or if you're a player that they want to give an advisory role to start working into the front office, accept an advisory role with the team you played for most of your career, and then work your way up from there. Eventually, I feel like I would have, when I'm still going to be around the game just as much, I'm just not going to be the one physically playing anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because, like, look at what Peyton Manning did. I mean, this guy, I mean, you know, he's the student of the game.
Football mastermind.
But I mean, have you ever watched that? Like, I love watching that. Yeah, that's great. I'd much rather watch those guys than the crew they have calling the game.
Well, nobody ever realized Eli was so quiet in his career that everybody always tells him this. Nobody ever realized how funny Eli Manning was, because he was such a quiet individual. Where Peyton was always the more would actually speak and be a little bit more. Eli was always.
Now I've read things
You know.
about Eli where he's more of the jokester and he's more
No,
of
yeah,
the
but nobody knew that because
yeah,
he never
because
was
he
like
never
that.
that's not the
Where
persona
Manning
that
was,
he
yeah,
portrays.
Manning was more out, like open with his personality a little bit.
Yeah.
Eli as a player was not. Where post
No.
player, he jokes around all the time. He messes with people all the time, and he
Yeah.
talks about how he used to mess with people in his career, but he never would have said that probably if he was still playing.
Exactly.
Like he was always something that kept it close to the vest when he was playing.
I mean, well, if you look at Eli Manning, and here was a guy who came out and basically said, look, if you draft me, I'm not playing for you.
Oh, the Chargers, yeah.
And what did the Chargers do? They drafted him. And he was like, well, I'm not going to play for you guys. But then they turned around and traded him. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, boy, that was a woo! Boy, that somebody got their short end of the stick on that one, I think. Big time. But, well, man, I'll tell you what, we got we're coming down to the wire here with the NFL, where seeding is starting to be more important now, and where teams finish the year, 1 to 2 games left coming out here. And I'm going to say this. I've been watching the Steelers for a very, very long time. In my lifetime, I've seen 3 coaches now for the Pittsburgh Steelers in my lifetime. I've seen a plethora of quarterbacks come in and out of that locker room.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a bigger turnstile. That has to physically be a bigger turnstile than coaches, just logistically.
Yes, sir. But let me say this. For the last 18 years, I have never seen a more consistent, ready-to-play, top-tier level quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, everybody looked at the Steelers and was like, man, after Terry Bradshaw was like, well, now what? And Cordell Stewart came in and, well, he was a flash. And Neil O'Donnell came in and he was a flash, you know. And then they drafted Ben Roethlisberger. So, I mean, kid just came in and his first season, he was 15-1. I mean, who does that as their rookie year? Comes in, their starting quarterback gets hurt, and you come in and just rattle off 15 straight wins. What?
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the beginning, I would say for the first 10, played an 18-year tour, 10 to 12 years of his career, he was definitely consistently in the top tier of the league. And then probably for about 3-year stretch after that was still in the middle.
Yeah.
So then
starting to come back
at
down.
times would have those couple weeks where you're like, okay, now I'm going to move him back up to 10th. And then he would come back down to 15th.
Yeah.
So it would be like in that. Where now the reason
now
why I think he harmed himself too much is he's in the 20-somethings now, where he wouldn't have been that if he retired 2 years ago. He would have retired as probably being at the back end of the word 17th in most people's eyes, right out of the top 15 at retirement. Wouldn't have been in the 20s. And that's why, like, I think you don't, as a player, you obviously want to keep playing until you want to keep playing. You don't think about that stuff. But you don't want to harm yourself for all the great things you accomplished beforehand by tarnishing your legacy when it comes to when voting comes to shove.
Exactly.
And people look at it a little bit differently. So
super. Well, Joe, I'll tell you what, man. We got a great show here for you this week, guys. We covered just 2 sports because really that's kind of what's going on right now. The NHL is starting to get back, and we're starting to have regular games now again, and so that's awesome. And the NFL is heating up now because playoffs are getting ready to start here in a couple weeks. So, man, I'll tell you what, it's exciting. Also, Joe, I see that you've been covering more of the minor league teams now. They're starting to come back, right? So I'm starting to see more and more coverage from you to do that, right? You got articles and everything. And I also would like to say this too. Joe, we cordially invite you to the Hockey Writers Inc. show for this week. We would like to have you come on with me and Lance and join us for the show. What do you say?
Yeah, that would be awesome. I love talking about. Anytime I get invited to talk about the Flyers, typically that's going to be a yes.
Yeah, man.
Even
right.
if there's some or more negative than positive to talk about.
Well, we've been. I'm gonna throw a special thing here for you so you can be a little bit prepared. Okay. What we've done on the show is we've basically said, okay, I've become the owner of the Flyers, and Lance is now the GM. So you might be brought in as the head coach.
Okay.
Okay. Or you might be brought in as a assistant GM, or so start thinking about where you want to go and what you want to do, because we thought of this great idea that we want to rebuild this team because the Flyers need to be rebuilt. Seriously. We feel that they need to be rebuilt from the ground up, from ownership all the way down. So that's what we're going with, okay? Are you down?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Cool.
I'll probably have more keepers than you guys because I think there's certain guys that have to stick around.
You might not be as surprised as you think. Okay. We might be keeping more guys than you think, is what I'm trying to say. So, man, another edition of the JB and Steel Show. We got great stuff going on here. Got to go check out the website, www.steelflyers.com. Joe, why don't you tell the folks where they can reach you, where they can get all your great articles, where they can get your coverage of the Reading Royals, and all the great stuff you're doing for Flyers Nitty Gritty.
Yeah, JJ Borek 26 to reach me is the best spot because I don't respond to anything on Facebook Messenger. I just started responding to a Royals fan on there because it's the only thing he has. But for most, I don't respond on Facebook Messenger. It's a lot easier to get me on Twitter. Where then I'm also on Flyers Nitty Gritty, right, for all the teams there, the Reading Royals, the Phantoms, and also, of course, the Philadelphia Flyers. And then on the Great Steel Flyers website, as well as my Sports Fanatic news page that I'm doing, like Steel said, different minor league coverage for different teams throughout the time and try to fit in talk of all the teams. Where I'm doing a beginning of year reports for different teams, but I'm combining them for the minors because I don't have time to do individual ones. So that's why I did the first one with a couple teams as a whole. That's what I'm doing for all of them. Like I
there
did
you go.
NHL one.
Check out Joe's stuff, man. That's why we call him Pro Joe, because he is the professor. I promise you will learn something because Joe knows more about hockey than what most people have forgotten. Okay, so check out Joe. Please follow him. Please check him out. Check out the JB and Steel Show. This is volume 7, right? Volume 7. There you go. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. You can also follow me on the web at www.steelflyers.com. Thank you all very much for watching the JB and Steel Show. We'll catch you all on the next edition.